your big day. It's your big day. It's your big day. It's your big day. Every day I play in the sunshine is so heavenly. Oh, oh, oh. I feel it in my soul. Do you feel it in your soul? It's so big. It's so big. It's so big. Bingo day. Bingo day. Bingo day. Bingo. It's yo big day. Oh. It's your big day, yo. It's your big day, everybody. It's your big day, everybody. We are so happy to be with you in this time-space reality. So happy to be communicating with you. So happy to be sharing the love, the good vibes, the feelings that we need to achieve our highest authenticity. Our best day ever. It's your big day. Today we really want to talk about the tribe mind and the bubble that we exist in, and how that can become a sort of barrier to frequency, and how that can be very troublesome, and how we need to be aware of the past, the present, the future, so we can actually understand what we're interacting with. I mean, let's be quite frank, the frequencies are so fluxed up. They're so fluxed up that it's really hard to determine sometimes who we're actually meeting when we're meeting someone. If you are of the tribe of love and light, this is the vibe guide. One-on-one. You on you. Yes, it is. It's actually like a thing. The thing is, everyone, it's pretty incredible. If you are of the love and light tribe, and when we say love and light, let's go ahead and take a love breath on 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh my goodness. That energy, I love it. It feels so good. It's feeling really good today. It's like orgasmic. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying that energy. Really enjoying that vibe. Really enjoying the day. Really enjoying everything that could possibly ever happen right now in this present moment. So happy to share these positive vibes with all of those involved. Tribe, gods, goddesses. You know what's up. We feeling it today. It's quite incredible. I really want to tap in on the energetics of those who are going all in to the frequency. We're going to speak a little bit about ego today and how that's sort of challenging. We are living in a frequency that is always evolving, always changing. And as we grow, as we expand, we enter different spaces, and they have incredible influences over us, and we can't actually metamorphosize into the being that we're trying to become. There's a lot of detours in the way. There's a lot of detours that we have to take. There's a lot of patterns that are taking form, that are appearing in the hologram, that are challenging to move through. And that is because, well, there's the flux. There is at least 9 to 10 energies at play within the beingness of others that we have to be aware of. The potentialities, the paths they bifurcate, trifurcate, quadruplicate. They are all over the place. It's really challenging when you have these encounters with other beings to maintain a steady frequency, because there's a time and there's a place for everything. And so as you go out on your quest, it's really important that you understand that your energy is going to be challenged, because there's a time and there's a place. That's really all you need to know, but it gets really deep in that. There may be some atrocities, some troughs, there may be some traps, there may be some, oh my goodness, you can find yourself falling and just falling and falling. Never really getting to the destination that you want, taking these detours because someone is working that whirlpool. That warple. They're just whoa, 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 whoa. They're creating some sort of pocket reality, some sort of black hole. And you can't get out of it. It's a great time to learn a new lesson. And you have to be prepared. This may take years. This may take weeks. This could take months. This could take a very long time. And how much time are you willing to spend in this frequency? So, to give you some assistance to help you in your plight, you're probably aware of some of these frequencies, but as we said, if you go all in, you may forget. Because to know, we have to forget what we once knew. And that's actually a very serious statement. Because if you can't actually forget what you once knew, you won't actually have the bandwidth to take on the new energy at the level that is required to actually create the synergy or the charge that is great enough to actually have a transcendental experience. Or how should I say, the one that you're actually looking for. You will find something different. You will have an experience. You will have a lesson. You will have something that you have to unravel. But getting to the source of the frequency that you're actually trying to attain may not happen. And that's because of your lack of self-awareness. A great author said that self-awareness is not just, and I disagreed with this statement at first because it's actually not true. Self-awareness, they said, was looking within and being aware of what everyone else is looking at. That's self-awareness. You have to understand that some people are actually thinking like that. And what the person said was that most people believe that they are self-aware. And the problem is, that's because you believe that self-awareness is looking at yourself and understanding you. But that's not what self-awareness is. So what is self-awareness? Well, it really just depends on the space that you're in. And that's really challenging. So if you are on the love and light tribe and you are trying to exercise some sort of frequency, you're going to need a certain kind of environment. And it can feel a little bit redundant because, let's be honest, it's one of the paths less traveled. And because of that, because it's not the most popular path, you have to understand, to really understand what's on the path, you're going to have to get a little involved. You're going to have to fully embody what it is, and you can't lie to the energy. That's the interesting thing about energy. You have to experience it, you have to work with it. But that's the interesting thing about energy, because the energy is different than that being over there. But that being is energy. So if you're working with energy and you're understanding energy, yes, you will need to understand the inside and the outer world. But you have to understand there's no money there. There's no currency there. What you have to understand is that there's no charge there. There's no currency there. It's just self-work. It's just understanding. It's just discernment. And so, even though to others it may not seem that you're doing something important because they're in such a rush to promote their lifestyle, you may feel combative at times because others do not respect what you are doing. It doesn't mean you shouldn't understand what they are doing, because there's always something new to learn. But that Wurple, you have to be really careful, because time is of the essence. I don't want you to miss out on a synchronicity, but it's very important that you understand that when you have a focus, you have to get focused, and you need to eliminate everything that is getting in the way of your focus. I've mentioned it before and I'll mention it again. I've gone off the grids for years at a time. That's a huge risk. Because when you go off the grid, you're off the grid, you come back on the grid, and everyone else has been on the grid understanding the grid. Maybe. If they were aware of it. But everyone is looking for something different. So you have to understand, if you go off the grid, if you go offline, you have to understand that you are a very different person than the person that is going online. But it does not mean you are not achieving something. It does not mean that you are not learning. It does not mean that you are not expanding. And that's really hard for people to understand. Mom. It's crazy because people don't even like it. They don't like going off the grid because they've put so many tethers, they put so many tendrils, they put so many investments into the grid. They're so locked into it, they have to be in the grid the entire time. Some people actually still go off the grid because they realize that, as we mentioned before, we only have so much bandwidth. You can't do everything at once. We can try to achieve that. But the energy is so subtle on this path, the path of the light work, the path of the inner work, the energy is so subtle. If you really want to achieve greatness, and I'm not trying to, mislead you, this is honesty, depending on what your desire is, and you would know, you may look a little bit kooky. You may have to do some deep investigation, some really deep inner seeking, some really deep knowing thyself type work to understand what's really going on in the world around that, the world beyond that, the world within that, the world over that, the world under that, the worlds within worlds. What I can promise you is that if you do go off of the grid, is that when you do come back online eventually, when you finally find your alignment or someone sort of forces you into one, you will have a greater understanding of what's going on because you're going to have these wow moments, these eyebrow raising moments, it could be some gut clenching moments as well, which would be very natural, some very uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable days, years even. What I can promise you is that when you go off the grid, your life will probably be enhanced so greatly. You'll probably achieve the sort of happiness, the free energy sort of happiness that is so profound, you won't really see a need to come back on. But if you aren't careful, you'll probably wind up like some indigenous person, and that's a compliment. Yet it's an archetype. It's a risk to be an indigenous person because that means you're outside, you're looking at the stars. You're learning the world. You're learning your spirit. You're learning the isness. You're learning all that is. You're learning abundance. And you can only really achieve that if you go offline. Someone can tell you about it. But if someone attempts to light your candle, to really understand the power of a candle, you're going to have to go in the dark. And you're going to have to sit in the dark to really understand what the candle is and what it's for and what it can do for you and why you need it and everything. And that's going to that's going to create all sorts of happenings within you. And it's going to change you. It's going to awaken you. And you have to be ready for that sort of work. But how is it useful to you? Well, knowledge is knowledge. You're like, but it's just a hologram. Like, how is that actually going to like assist me in like moving? You won't know until you experience it. For each and every individual, that's going to be different because we're all on a slightly different path, but you would know. This is just to remind you that you have a tribe, whether it's local or non-local, that's sending you light, sending you love, sending you appreciation and gratitude. Because you're going to encounter some frequencies on that path that are just, whoa. And they're doing the same thing as you. They have forgotten what they knew. They've accepted what they're doing. They're doing their best to embody it. They're totally going and they're soaking themselves in it. And that's all they are. They're steeped in it. They're in the tea. They are the tea. So you're going to have to learn how to deal with that. That's hard work. We're talking about like we're talking about feeling like an alien for sure. Because I mean, anybody could feel like an alien, but we're talking about feeling like an alien for sure. I highly recommend that you walk the path that you know. But there are some very synergistic energies out there. And isolation is one of them. You have to create a sacred space for yourself. It's very interesting because, who knows where the energy is, right? You might discover it in a place that you never thought you discovered before. But what is it really? If something is working for you, it's one of the most challenging places to be is in a place where you need innovation, where you're in an energetic place, where you're waiting for a new awakening, a breakthrough, if you will, a new insight. That's a very challenging place to be. And so you have to make a decision then. What's working? Did you fully exhaust like what you have? What you were working on? Did you fully exhaust like the modality? Is there anything else that you can find within it? Or are you being completely overridden by the grid? I mean, let's be honest, the grid has some useful things for people on different paths. And sometimes the best way to interact with it is 1 foot in and 1 foot out, but that's a path in and of itself. That path has strengths and that path has weaknesses. One of the things that I can tell you I've noticed on my path is that 1 foot in, 1 foot out decreases the amount of synchronicities that you have. But once you go back in, you'll look at the synchronicities. You get to look at your synchronicities from a different perspective, and then you have a ton of downloads that you really need to rework and understand. Like, why did these synchronicities happen? Were these synchronicities what was that? Were they legitimate? This requires a great deal of work. So my recommendation to you is that you become the most independent person possible. That means having your own space to survive in, a place that you can create a temple in. Because it's very easy on the path to actually get disrupted. And one change changes everything. And I want to bring that to your awareness as well, because I have experienced that on the path as well. And as a guide, I have to tell you that change isn't always good. change will always happen, but change isn't always good. It always works out being good. But the thing is it the one you were looking for? You have to become meticulous at a certain point. You got to go, well, I got something great, but is that what I really wanted overall? So you don't really want to be in a rush to say something is completed. You don't really want to be in a rush when you're making some of these decisions. And sometimes there's going to be opportunities that pop up and then they're gone. And it's going to feel like a huge loss not to take the opportunity. But protecting the frequency is sometimes going to be the most crucial thing that you can do. And I don't want to make it too serious, but it's, you change one thing, you change. Now you have additional frequencies, you have bandwidth being taken up, and now you can, like, wow. There really isn't any amount of, like, data that you can't take in. But there's a reason why you don't have to take in all the data. So you have the spectrum, right? There's the visible light spectrum, and then there's light outside of that. What should you focus on, right? Well, it would feel better to focus on all of it, right? Of course. But why are there these individuations? It's something to understand. It's something that's important. It's a part of growth. It's a part of expanding. If you're onto something and you're understanding a frequency, a channel, it's extremely important that you focus on that and you don't get upset when the rest of the world doesn't value what you value. Someone will. But you have to find your tribe. You have to reconvene with your tribe and understand your tribe. And also understand your tribe may not even be your tribe because your tribe is expanding too. The tribe is trying to understand the whole totality of existence and trying to understand themselves as well. And so when they reflect to you, they will be a better vessel for honoring what you're doing, but also understand there is a lot going on there. There's a lot going on there. So I really just want to encourage that you protect your energy, that you protect your mission, that you protect your intelligence and your unfolding. Be mindful of that. But also, don't forget that you have to get back on the path. You have to focus on what you came here to achieve. Because it's very easy to get distracted with the world becoming so connected and there being so much sharing, which is a wonderful thing. I mean, before you know it, we're linking up with all of the stars already. With all of the planets. Before you know it, there's going to be so much information. It's going to feel like you can't even explore yourself. It almost feels like it's going to move so fast. The part of you that you're trying to explore, someone's going to understand for you. There's that anxiety of feeling like all movement is useless because the world is unfolding so rapidly. Whatever it is that you're working on, I guarantee that it's not redundant. But you also wouldn't be wrong to invest your time in looking at other things. It's counterintuitive. But I don't want you to feel like it's unnatural. But just understand, the more and more you look at another frequency, the more it adulterates the frequency, the channel that you were on, because it's a different channel. So now these two different channels, they begin to converge, and now you have a new channel. But that's not always good, because then you start forgetting. So be mindful of the tune that you're on, because there were things that you were unfolding, and you may need to do a little more seeking, because you may be ignoring how valuable something is that you already had. Everything that you see in this realm, it has not been fully exhausted in a way, in the sense that, it's all readily available to you in the way that is completely awareness at once. I mean, it is, but there's levels to this. So you have to be aware of that. So be willing to make the sacrifices, if you want to call them that. Be willing to be focused. Be willing to understand the thing that you are most interested in and passionate about. And understand that only tribe is really going to understand you. Understand that others are going to want your time. And you won't have time. And it may not look like you're doing a whole lot. And you're going to have to accept. That's a tough challenge, right? That with choices here. I mean, you have an opportunity to participate. Of course, you're going to have to make that choice on your own. But you have to know when it's time. And that's going to be an intuitive process. That's going to trust your intuition. Trust what you're feeling in your gut. Trust what you know. Trust what's in your heart. And you're good. So just to really hone in and focus on the essence of all this, I mean, it's all important, but people outside of the tribe really don't get you. They will say that they will, but they haven't actually invested the time in what you're doing. And sometimes there may be something enlightening there if you spend enough time, because you're going to have to adjust to their frequency. But is it really the same? We are actually living in a time where there is a lot of geniuses. But are they the kind of genius that you are? And is it their time to lead? You're going to have to omit some of these frequencies. Some of them can actually make you grow in a really big way. Here we go with the counter intuitions. But you're going to have to feel your way into that. But you shouldn't feel any sort of responsibility. You shouldn't feel any sort of pain, or you shouldn't feel any sort of anxiety working with these other energies. Yes, the truth is, all growth is growth. And when you take that growth and you absorb it, of course it's going to make you greater. There is no such thing as a lesson that is wasted. So it's never going to feel like that, because you can always implement it. But you have to recall what your path is. You have to understand, what's the center point? Should you trust the flow? These are certain things that you're going to be experiencing. At a certain point, it may feel like the flow needs protecting. And the best way to protect the flow is actually working on your independence and your sovereignty. I mean, it all winds up working out in the long run, but it's something to think about, because the universe will test you if you allow the flow to completely take you. You will wind up in service to others. You will wind up in ventures that you did not imagine, and that's very exciting. It's very enlightening. It's very fun. But it's good to question if that is actually really what you need, especially if you had the sort of insight. It all funnels down to this one moment, doesn't it? It's like, well, are you brave enough to go to say, we'll see what happens? How faithful can you be? So be aware. Be aware not only to listen to the guides of the tribe and the sages, more so the sage within you. I saw what 2020 did to the saginess. It was very distracting. It was extremely distracting. But it also, like, if you paid attention to it, it allowed you to see how connected the world was. That was very insightful. Don't be afraid to retire the flow and to be more direct about the thing that you are going toward. It's okay. I'm experiencing that right now, actually. And it has been challenging. It's been hard. I'm naturally, at my soul level, I'm definitely one to be in flow. It's much more orgasmic and delightful, and I love that. But yeah, there's really nothing else to do but to do it. We love you. We love you like oh so much. It's such a beautiful day. It's such a beautiful day. It's dope. But enjoy the journey. Be careful. Don't lose your frequency. Some of these memories, I mean, they will come back eventually. But be careful. Write it down. Do something. Because losing some of these memories, I mean, to get back on the path, you're going to have to ignite them once again. You're going to have to go back in. Don't forget your work. Don't forget what you came here to do. We out here, floating on a cloud of gratitude. Trust your light. We love you.